That is a really big part of the Joy Resistance Network is I want to make a difference. I think that is just like so deep. I might not know exactly how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. My name is Justin Dallas, and this is another episode of Inherently Gay. I'm super excited to kick off this episode, specifically because it's Pride Month in Austin. If you're queer, if you're an ally, we're celebrating. We love you. But moreover, I'm here to talk about joy specifically during this Pride Month. And who else to talk about joy with than Hayley, who has created the Joy Resistance Network in Austin. So Hayley, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
So good. I'm not nervous. You're nervous.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, and it's been so much fun watching this to kind of come to life. So
Yeah.
I love a chance to talk about it.
Well, you know what? It's so crazy because I saw the Joy Resistance Network come about because I was just on my phone scrolling and I saw and I saw a reel, like as one does, like just scrolling mindlessly, and I saw an ad for the drunk drag queen history, and I was like, wait a minute, like hold up, like on a couple of factors. Like one, I love drinking. We love drag queens.
We're in Austin.
Yeah, we love drag queens. And I mean, lifelong learner. Like I love history, but history is always better told like with tequila and drag queens. You know.
I mean, growing up, I watched drunk history, and always was just like, oh, I wish history class was like this. Just seeing the humor, and it's like the real stories instead of just a series of facts and dates. And I think that's partially something I loved when I was teaching and in the classroom was like making history stories and not simply like this arc of what happened and what you needed to know. Is like telling the stories, and it is definitely a lot better to do it with your friends and get them a little toasty.
Oh yeah.
It was so much fun.
Well, yeah, it's also better too when there's like tequila and there's like wigs and you're doing a dance number by like Cher and Shaka Khan. Like, you know, when all else fails, like refer back to Cher. Like that's my big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about Joy Resistance Network. Like you're, this child that you kind of birthed out of passion and creativity, kind of. I want to talk about the name specifically, like Joy Resistance Network. Like, tell me about that name and why it was so important to kind of brand yourself as that.
Yeah, I think it's been a journey. I'm always hearing, and maybe a little troll, but oh, are we resisting joy today? And of course not. We're using joy. It really is joy plus resistance plus your network, and I think that is just the only way to resist these days. I've been in a bunch of different kind of activist and advocate roles between just like growing up all my life, and it's exhausting. There's so much burnout. There's a lot of guilt when you need to take a break and like coming back into it. It's kind of like, oh, sorry, I've been a little AWOL. Like I needed to take a minute. But it is very exhausting. And the only way to make it sustainable is with joy. And so the story really of the Joy Resistance Network kind of comes from that. I have a lot of dimples. And I've always just I'm a middle child, very much just like a peacemaker. And I always wanted to do that. And I never really knew if I had like the skills and the tools to do that. But as I was finishing my master's in global policy at the UT LBJ school, I really started like journaling about this idea of joy as resistance and the way I was getting so frustrated with how it had been kind of co-opted into like this hashtag, like that joy is a substitute for resistance, instead of it being the fuel to it and the thing that makes it's sustainable and possible, really. And so it took a long time to really think about, as a white woman who, joy as resistance is not meant for me. It is and should be in that way, like empowering marginalized communities. And, that isn't me, but something that I was getting fed up with was the further co-opting of it into this kind of kitschy excuse for apathy sometimes, and it's true, joy is resistance, but joy alone is not resistance. And I think that is where I was like, well, I know, and I've grown up doing so many like, homeless dinners and, just trash pickups and all of these things, but I always just did it with friends and we made it fun and we found ways where it was like, oh, like I'm filling my cup up. I'm not pouring it out. And I really do have to thank my dear friend Colleen DeForest for grabbing me and just being like, whatever you do, I want to do it with you. Like, this is a brilliant idea and you need to run with it. And it still took me a while to take that leap and say like, okay, like I'm ready to try to bring joy as resistance into a way that it is the watering hole for everyone, whether you have never been in activist spaces and you just want to dip your toes in and you don't really know how to do that and you don't want to fully commit or feel like shame or guilt for not having committed before.
Yeah.
You can come and enjoy yourself and realize all of the ways you can give back and have fun doing it. It should be fun. It should fill up your cup and you shouldn't leave feeling empty and tired.
Well, yeah, and I think that's so true because the world right now, y'all, like it's on fire is an understatement. And it's so funny because we're dropping this, at the beginning of August during, Austin's Pride Month where it's celebrating. And, sometimes I think we forget that Pride started out as a protest, and things were really shitty back then where we had people on the front lines that were, men, women, everybody of all different genders and expressions and sexualities. They were all coming together. So like, kind of like going back to what you were saying, like you don't have to be a part of a marginalized community to enact change or to do things or to help those communities.
Just stand with them.
Yeah, you have to stand with them. It's something that's bringing us together rather than looking at us as like differences or keeping us apart. It's like, hey, we're all in this together. We all call this place home. Like, let's work together, regardless of who you love at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a history nerd and instructional coach, do you want to know why Austin's Pride is in August and not June?
Let's hear it. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember if this was 90s or early 2000s, but essentially it was, they need a permit for a large scale protest.
Okay.
And it was competing with a bicycle club, or not bicycle, sorry, like motorcycle club. And so after years of competing for these permits, they moved it to August just for the ease of it, just to be like, fine, like let them have June, I guess. And to be honest, I don't see any motorcycles out there anymore, but it has now like turned into that tradition of Austin having its own August Pride.
Really? Motorcycles? Okay. I'm just like thinking of like the leather daddies out there who are like, they get to celebrate twice.
They're like, hell yeah, Pride.
They're on the Harley Davidsons, the choppers, yeah, which is kind of hot. But I mean,
as long as they're allies.
Yeah. Like, I always thought it was because like I don't know why I thought it was like because of the weather, but
it's just as hot in August as it is in June, babe.
It's just as bad. I remember going to Austin Pride a couple of years ago, and geez, like we had the drag queens performing on the main stage, and I think they brought out Cupcake, the rapper, and like all of their like makeup was just sweating off. I felt so bad.
That's true love of the craft.
Yeah, it's love of the craft.
Oh.
That's fighting for equality. That's fighting for equal
my
rights.
gosh.
Like sweating in a
wig and the tights.
Yeah.
It's truly like that is dedication. I love it.
And that's why I probably would never be able to do drag because I am hot like just like this.
Yeah.
Like I need a fan now, and like I can't imagine having like the hips and the pads and the wigs. Like I would love
Damn,
to.
they look good.
Yeah, no, you would look so good. Do you have like a drag name?
Oh man, come back to me on that one.
Okay,
It'll be so much fun.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
So you were talking about Senator Colleen DeForest. She's one of the co-hosts for the Drunk Drag Queen History. How did that relationship come about, or how did you get her to kind of work with you for that event?
I mean, truly, I met Colleen through a mutual friend, and just immediately, like, we just gravitated towards each other, and we're just laughing. And it was actually like a Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving. We were sitting on the balcony after a glass of wine and some food, and just kind of talking about what we did and what we wanted to do and how we wanted to, or how we loved the city and how we wanted to give back to it in the ways that we felt like we were able to do that with our skills and our tools. And I started telling her about this, and she kind of really just shook a little bit of sense into me, but also just gave me that like, okay, like I have someone who I love, I trust, and who stands in this community. At the time I was, very newly in a poly relationship with a woman, and really realizing that that part of me had never really felt confident enough in myself to do that. And so we're talking about just so much about like what it means to learn, and how I think if I had learned more queer history and more about queer culture. I grew up in a very heteronormative, LA neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think if I had just had more exposure and I had learned more, it wouldn't have taken me so long.
Yeah.
And I mean, at times it was really depressing, just realizing like I had almost robbed myself of these wonderful relationships because of heteronormativity. And as soon as, she and I began dating, it was just like I felt like this like little girl again, like kind of really rediscovering, and we were
The giddiness.
Yeah, the giddiness and the adventure of just being like, oh my gosh, like this. Where have I been? And how wonderful it was, and how like organic and authentic it just felt. And very fortunate. My boyfriend like looked and was like, I mean, I could have told you had a crush on her. Like, you guys clearly are obsessed with each other. And I was like, it was just new and kind of scary. And so we, it's figuring out relationship dynamics, and then things like I never imagined myself in a poly relationship. Especially, I grew up in a very Christian right wing culture, and so much unlearning goes into that. And I think that's why I gravitated towards teaching as well, is for everything we learn, if we don't learn it right, if we don't learn it with this open mind, we have to unlearn it later. And I really love being a part of that learning journey, and hopefully, being the open space that like students got to explore and got to move forward as like their better version of themselves, and unlearning whatever it was that they'd internalized. And I just wish I had that when I was younger. And so
I love that. There's always a part in like a queer person's like journey, maybe, is where they kind of discover themselves again, and they, whether you're healing that inner child of you that's like, you're learning what you didn't get to learn, because we do live in a heteronormative society, and like we're only taught a specific skew or view or perspective on a way to live. And I feel like it's always, it's on us, or the responsibility to kind of learn your gay history, like they say. So someone who is new and interested in, gay drunk history, if they're interested in coming to this event, what can they expect? Like, what is the breakdown of this gay drunk history event when they're walking in? What should they expect?
Yeah. So I'll start with, I think so much of our history, and going to, unfortunately right now we are watching such a takeover of Texas public education and social studies learning. And I knew very early that I wanted to be a teacher. I was so excited to learn that on my campus I was going to be the U.S. history lead and teaching that. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, there's so many stories that I wanted to bring to life. And I was told, oh no, like this is a test prep class. Like you're really just making sure kids can pass the STAR at the end of the year. And what a boring version of history it really does tell so often.
And it's usually like straight white male centered.
We have very small sections on the civil rights movement. We have very small sections on the Chicano movement. McCarthy, we talk a little bit about like the Lavender Scare and the Red Scare, but there is no queer history included in especially Texas curriculum. But I think only 7 out of the 50 states have any form of inclusive queer history included in their social studies curriculum. And so that was something, was just like, there's a clear gap. And there's stories that deserve to be told, that should be known. And I wanted to bring them to life, and no better person than a queen who is just the star of the show. Colleen and Eileen did just such an amazing job. We met several times leading up to the event to go over the history, to clarify kind of misconceptions and the primary sources I wanted to present, to kind of like fuel and provide the evidence so that people did feel like they were in a history class and that they were learning the history that they should have learned. I want it to be the class, the history you deserved but maybe didn't get.
Okay.
So for gay drag drunk history, you should expect a lot of silliness, a lot of laughter. We host a toast at the end of every story to thank them, both the queens today and every queer person today, for being unapologetically themselves, but also toasting the legacies and the trailblazers that we had, and that we should have known all along.
Paying your respects, sort of. Yeah.
I will say I have learned I need to have a please drink responsibly. We have 4 toasts. Make sure you can make it, because it turns a little rowdy towards the end, but in the best way possible.
Which is great, which we love. So they're telling these stories. They're co-hosted by drag queens. Are they doing like drag numbers? Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so we partnered with Tent, and that is a really big part of the Joy Resistance Network. Is I want to make a difference. I think that is just like so deeply, like I might not know exactly how I'm going to do that, but we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And so we, every event has a joy partner and a resistance partner, and we infuse those together. And so for Gay Drag Drunk History, we worked with Tent and Trans Texas, but they also are known as Tent, and they do really incredible advocacy in Texas, in rural communities. They go to rural red areas. Bridget Bandit, you might know, is one of their like lead advocates who goes and does story time and Q&As and really destigmatizes what trans Texans look like and what they do and what they care about. And so they are the only trans-led organization in Texas. I adore working with them. And so it was part fundraiser and part laughter and joy. So that's the infusion of the joy and the resistance, is making sure that those are both present, and that our joy is fueling the resistance. It's not a substitute for it.
I love that, fueling the resistance, because in a sense, like you're doing both. Like I feel like a lot of times, like there's just fatigue, at least on my end, like with whatever's going on in the world, like you feel just fatigued, where there's days where I'm like, girl, I don't even want to look at the news right now because it's, I need escapism, and I watch Drag Race, or I watch like other forms of comedy to escape that. And I'm like, the only way I can watch the news is if it's like John Oliver or something that's funny, because I'm like, it's so
John Oliver, John Stewart, protect the Johns.
Yeah, it's protect the Johns.
Protect the Johns.
But it's
protect the dolls, protect the Johns.
Yeah, protect the Johns and the dolls. Which I mean, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so dystopian right now, and I feel like a lot of times people turn off that switch and they're like, I don't want any part of it. I don't want to think about it. It's not my responsibility. I'm good over here, so I'm not going to worry over there. Which, I understand, like, basically, like, with mental health or whatever. Yeah. But I think, like, I understand what you're saying, where, like, joy is fueling the resistance. Like, you can resist and you can bring in joy. And it doesn't have to be this, like, dark thing with protesting. Like, it's like, yeah, like, we're bringing joy, but we're also resisting, and we're doing it a new type of way, our type of way.
Yeah. I kind of say like rooted in rage, but led by joy. So
I love that.
Rage is powerful.
Yeah.
Rage is a very important emotion, and bring it, but when I think about attending protests, and I think part of what really spurred this too was like I was going to protest by myself, mm-hmm. And I know that there are so many people who are also doing that and like looking, and I have a lot of really wonderful friends who contribute in different ways to causes. But that showing up part is where I was like, oh, but like I have things to do, or it's really hot outside and it's like, this isn't my fight, I feel helpless in this, or I simply just, that doesn't sound fun. And time flies when you're having fun. So why not make it fun? Why are we saying that it has to be one and not the other? I think it should be both. And I know that there is so many opinions about not the last No Kings, but the No Kings protests in general being, what did it actually do? If it connects you to your community and gives you enough fuel to fight another day, that's exactly what it is meant to do.
Yeah.
And I want to be kind of the spider web that catches everybody and brings them into that. And so that's where, with the watering hole, maybe you've never been an activist before, never gone to a protest before, but you went to this and you're like, well, that was a good time. And you slowly start to find a community in that and start attending these bigger moments, and the ones that really, show up and matter on that larger scale, that 3.5% to make a big political change. Whatever it is that catches your interest, like, we're going to do that.
And that's essentially like what you're doing is you're creating a space, whether, you've been a lifelong activist or you're kind of interested in, like, you're stepping your toes into, like, what is resistance, what is activism? Like, you're creating these spaces for like-minded individuals to, like, go meet other people, have joy and, like, learn and create change. When I was looking on your page, the Joy Resistance Network, you talked about you having 3 values, and that's good people, good causes, and good times, which I love. And it's kind of been echoing kind of, the mission and the value and the events that you do have.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about those 3 values and what that means to you.
Yeah, and I will start with good people. I think more so we're all just trying to be good people. I think we all just wake up and we're like, okay, like it's another day, and we're really just trying to survive. But when we think about the person we want to be, we all want to be good people, and it can be really hard to do that. I think The Good Place is such a great TV show because it just brings up that it's hard sometimes to be a good person. There's so many unintended consequences, and we're just trying to survive. But it's a place where if you want to be and you want to find other good people and other people who just want to be good, we can come together, we can do that. We can have a good time supporting a good cause and making a good difference, making something happen. And at the very least, again, if nothing more happens than, we raise a little money or we pick up some trash on the lake and you feel empowered to do it again and to bring another person the next time, like, that is still medicine. That is still the point. It doesn't really matter how fast the rock is rolling as long as it's heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things I want to ask you right now is because, you're creating this cause of Joy Resistance Network, what is bringing you joy right now? How do you find joy right now?
Oh, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie, watching this come together, I'm both like an introvert and an extrovert. I'm nervous around all these cameras, but I really am so giddy when I have like excited people or just like good people just around me. Like that truly is like, I'm like, oh my God, like
it's an amplifier.
It is. It's just so powerful and does just feel like that is the fuel for me. And so it has been so much fun and so exhausting. I'm really learning how to balance. I still work full time while putting these events on. And every time I'm like, oh my gosh, like another sleepless night last night. And then we finished the event. I'm like, that was the best time I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
I just love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it pours into you and it means more. And it's like the output. And you're building community. Like what you're describing is like, you're feeling this energy, this like energetic shift of like in transference of people because you're kind of connecting with one another.
Yeah, and realizing I think to an extent, like I'm not as alone as I thought when it comes to the need for this. Like I know that there are so many people who are, they're like, I'm donating and I donate to the food pantry and I provide or XYZ. There's just so many ways that people give back. And don't end up refilling their cup.
Yeah.
And what I really would like, and I remember being like a teenager and kind of being in like a confusing like fight with my girlfriend and being like, I just feel like this is just really catty. I'm really confused. I wonder what would happen if our society really valued kindness and generosity over like coolness. It's like I thought back to like all of these movies, the Mean Girls movie, it was like all of the stereotypes that we absorb subconsciously and going back to the unlearning that has to happen. And I think we are on that track. Like I do see so many more narratives and stories where there's like not that mean girl because you don't, why do we need that girl? We don't need to be mean. But it really is like building a culture, I think, that values that because people want to feel valued. And that is the psychological kind of component of like whatever it is that hooks you into joyful resistance. And it's like, I don't care what it is. I just come over here, like join us. It's okay.
Dude, we need to get more silly. Like I think I think
whimsy is magical, man.
Whimsy, we take ourselves and lives too seriously. And when you realize like we're literally just floating on a rock. Like nobody knows what's going on. Nobody has the answers. We're just walking around pretending like we do. And
looking for food and friends.
Yeah, just food, like literally food and friends and like maybe tequila. Yeah. But like the second we take that mask off and we're just real with each other, being like, oh, do you also know like what's going on? Like, are we all in on this? Or are we just like pretending? Like it's playing, it's theater. Like we're playing acting. And like I think the second you realize like, okay, like, let's just chill out. Like, it's not as big a deal as it is. Like, let's go have fun, be whimsy. Like, I saw a TikTok the other day, and it was just like, when you heal yourself so hard, you circle back into being like that weird teenager again. And like, that's,
Nailed it.
yeah. And honestly, that's the phase I'm in right now. Like, I know I asked you, like, how are you finding joy? But like, that's me right now. Like, I feel like I'm rediscovering like my teenage self, because I was, oldest child, first generation college student, like very much like hard on myself. And like, now I'm like, okay, what was just like, what made Justin fun and weird? Like the music, or, like taking dance classes again, or I started playing tennis recently, which
Fun. And good for you. Oh my
Yeah,
God, there's so much running in tennis.
in this weather, girl, like but it's something new and it's fun. And it's like, okay, let me get off my phone. Cause right now a big thing for joy in my life specifically is getting back to like old school analog. Like, I'm trying to like not be on my phone as much. Like, I'm taking nature walks. I told my partner, I was like, okay, we're going to like lock our phone in a cupboard, and like, I'm going to try not to be on TikTok, because it's so easy right now to just
I
like,
have a brick for that.
I need to get one of those, but I feel like I would just like knock it off, or like I would deactivate it. Like right now, like I got a message saying you've exceeded your screen time, and I'm like, ignore,
When I was teaching, and this was during the pandemic, and it really was, that's when I was like, okay, like we may have kept children, as safe as we could from COVID, but forked them up in a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
We would watch The Social Dilemma, and that's what that movie is called, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just a little moment. But we would watch The Social Dilemma, and I would give them a worksheet. And this was seniors in my advisory class. So it was very like SEL learning, social emotional learning. And I said, hey, if you give me your phone for the entire period and just watch the movie instead, you don't have to do the worksheet. I had 2 students out of 30 accept that offer.
Wow. Okay.
They just it's not their fault. Like the chemical addiction and the world that we live in is just so digital. And I think what we were talking about before we started recording, but creating more than we consume.
Yeah.
And also taking the pressure off, like, you don't have to create something great every time.
Yeah.
Create something bad. Do something you're bad at. Like, I am not artistic. Let me tell you, I am not artistic. But I really do like try to force myself to go out and like just like sketch little notes, because like even as a teenager, when I took my notes, I would doodle.
Yeah.
Like I would do something, and it's like, okay, like that's nothing, but it is like that part of your brain just getting an itch. And as we grow older, we're like, oh, well, I only want to do things I'm good at. And rejection therapy and like real practice at things that you're bad at and creating something new is so important for like that brain growth and for just like feeling something different in your life. And so really love taking the whimsy and just being like, look at this beautiful piece. And you're like, it's abstract. It might not be abstract. Maybe you're drawing a dog. I'm going to call it abstract because nobody's going to know.
Who cares? Like, we're not doing it for a grade. We're doing it for fun. And like, that's something I struggled with too, is like, okay, if I'm not perfect with it, like I like hate it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, who cares? Like, just embrace being bad and like embrace like trying things.
Being human.
Yeah, be human, because I'd rather try something and fail but learn instead of never do it and then always wonder like, what if, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we got to get back to being silly. We got to get back to being goofy, whimsy, bringing joy. For me, I like being out in nature. But for someone who is kind of like how you mentioned your students, like for someone who is mindlessly scrolling, or they're kind of just, only paying attention to the dark stuff of what's going on, like they're bogged down. What would you do to recommend them like bringing joy, or what advice would you tell them right now?
Oh man, I mean, the doom scroll is so real, and the importance of staying informed is not at the detriment of, like you can know without knowing everything. And so I think it truly is just every once in a while putting the freaking phone down.
Yeah.
It's just putting it down sometimes, and that is genuinely challenging when we're in this like cycle of addiction, which truly like the speed that we get dopamine from social media is so high. But I really think, and for me, it's like having my dog or like going swimming, doing something where I'm like, oh, sorry, my hands are dirty or physically busy, so I can't look at my phone. So sorry. Like it's physically not in my, I only have 2 hands. Yeah. And filling your time with something, even if it's a structure, just an hour or 2, and noticing those little differences. It's hard. And I also do believe in, getting that good news as well. There's those accounts that are like good news from June.
I love those. Yeah, like here's the good news this week of like man saves dog in like a hospital or whatever. Yeah, like
and every once in a while reminding like, oh, that was just like a person who just did something, and like I could do that. I can just go and do something small and do something good. And I think that is where our events hopefully are like, okay, like I'm gonna just go do something and feel good for a moment and do something good at the same time.
Yeah, someone who's like for me, speaking for myself, like I'm a big overthinker, and like I've been seeing a lot of quotes and a lot of like things about like being a prisoner of your own mind. So like basically the idea that like perception is reality. So if you're only looking at the crazy horrible stuff, and like part of you wants to keep scrolling because you want to be informed and like this is the reality, but I think kind of changing that perspective, we're not making it your full your full life. Because like I'm the first to admit, like I use social media. I have to use it for like the podcast and like for other things. What I do is like I turn off my notifications for TikTok and Instagram. So I don't like, because I don't get that like jump of adrenaline for like the notification or so and so sent you a message. Like it's like, no, whenever I click on the app, that's when I see it. But it doesn't have like a badge, or I'm not getting notified. It's like it's on sleep mode, and like that has helped so. It's small, but it's kind of like diet social media. Like I'm taking like a little bit of a break, but not really.
I mean, and thank you for saying that. Something that I do, I still have the app of Instagram on my phone, but it doesn't have an icon. I have to search. I have to type Instagram for me to open it. And so, yeah, I do not see those notifications. I keep my phone on sleep mode. I will say there's a lot of people who hate me for that because it'll take me hours to look at. I'm like, oh, so sorry.
I'll get back to you. It might just be like 2 to 3 business days. Yeah.
Sometimes it might be that. And that is truly because like I am one person with 2 hands, and there's so much life to live and so much to do. There's only 24 hours in a day. And it's going to be okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, to kind of break up that segment, I wanted to... welcome back. We're going to be playing Drunk History, where I'm going to ask Hayley a couple of questions, and we're going to see kind of just, your responses. The first section will be true or false, just basically true or false. And then the second one, I'll give you like a quick blurb, and then you'll have to tell me, what that moment was, or that person, or that thing in history. It's all queer history. Again, going back to we're not getting graded.
Yeah.
Who cares about being perfect? So true or false, round 1. So true or false, the first Pride parade was called a Gay Liberation March.
True.
True? Yeah, true. The rainbow flag originally had 8 colors. I'm like, Roy G. Biv.
I know, I'm trying to count. I'm a social studies teacher, not a math. I'll say true.
Yeah, true.
Okay, nice. I know that there's been, many changes and iterations to be more inclusive with the flag. The colors used to be much more feminine as well, and they went more into the whole rainbow spectrum, but the number of colors is a little shady.
Wow. I didn't know. The more you know. Okay, next one. A drag queen once ran for the president of the United States.
The president? Were they on a ballot? Okay, that's going to ruin the true or false part. I'm going to say no. No, yes. Running is different than like getting elected or like even making it onto like the ballot. So I will say yes.
Okay, yeah, true. So actually multiple have. So the one most notably, noted is Joan Jett Black ran for president of the United States way back when.
Queen, love her.
Queen, yeah. I'm like honestly surprised RuPaul hasn't, or even Senator Colleen DeForest. Like I'm like, I thought she like was actually in like politics.
I love that.
I was like, oh, maybe she's like at the Capitol. Like this is her 5 to 9 after the 9 to 5.
She's so funny.
Yeah, true or false? Homosexuality wasn't removed from the list of mental illnesses until the 1990s.
True.
So false. Close. So it was removed in 1973.
Okay.
By the American Psychiatric Association, APA.
Okay.
Which is crazy that they considered homosexuality a mental illness.
I mean, yes, crazy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't blow me away because unfortunately where we are, I will say even today, there are 26 states that have in their state constitution a ban against gay marriage.
Jesus.
Meaning 26 states in the same same form of like Roe v. Wade. Once Roe v. Wade was overturned, all of these policies were able to be kind of trigger enacted. So should they overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, 26 states have written in their constitution, their state constitution, that they would not recognize queer marriage. And that is where, when you look at the Supreme Court and the recent decision just barely to protect birthright citizenship, which comes from the 14th Amendment post-slavery, but was also used to expand rights for immigrants, for queer people and queer marriage, for women's right to vote and women's right to bodily autonomy. The 14th Amendment is, to me, the most important. It's the first time the word equality is listed in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Is the 14th.
And for people who don't know, like, what is that?
Yeah, the 14th Amendment essentially says that you are an equal citizen. If you are born here, you are an equal citizen. And it was written after the passage of the 13th Amendment, after the Civil War, and was meant and intended to protect and provide equality for the first time to newly freed enslaved Americans.
Yeah.
And grant them, that right. And so that is where the idea of birthright citizenship came from. But citizenship was different than the right to vote, which goes into the 15th Amendment, and being like, oh, okay, well, like equality also means that you can equally vote and equal representation. And so it's been such a slow and long journey, but we have senators in Alabama openly calling for the removal of the 14th Amendment. And I struggle to imagine how that comes from anything outside of deep-seated misogyny and hatred and racism.
Yeah, and hatred. Yeah. It's just, I'm just like, why are they so obsessed and angry? Because I feel like a lot of the times, like, you hear like these far-right conservative politicians are actually the ones blowing up Grindr. And they're the ones on Grindr and Sniffies, and they're secretly like wanting to get their back blown out. And I'm just like, go kiss somebody, and then maybe you'll like lighten up. Like, it's the pent up sexual energy. Like, I feel like if we just like communicated with them and like invited them to like gay drunk drag history, or they saw like a drag show or something, like, I feel like they're just like those mean girls who didn't get invited to a party, so then they start a rumor about everybody, and they're just trying to like bully. And it's such a crappy situation. And like, seeing like gay couples get married and like gay families with children, like, that brings me so much joy. And I'm just like, that is joy.
Fills
as
my
resistance.
cup joy.
It fills your cup.
Yeah.
Okay, next couple ones. There was once a disco song that became an LGBTQ plus protest anthem completely by accident.
Oh, I totally believe that. I do not know what.
Do you want to take a guess?
YMCA, that's not by accident.
Which is good. Yeah, like, that's a very good guess.
Donald Trump doesn't seem to know that.
I Will Survive became a pride protest anthem completely by accident.
I love that.
Let's see. The creator of the rainbow pride flag was an Army veteran.
Oh, that's so interesting. Because of kind of how specific that is, I'm going to say true.
Yeah, true.
That's so cool. And that just kind of goes to show, like, queer is not your only identity. Like, you can be anything and everything. These hybrid, like, all of the things that matter to you are just like so equally present and important. And, how dare we say you can't serve our country because of something else?
Yeah.
Then, I get if you're like really anti-America going in, like, I see where that might come from within a military stance, but I just don't understand. And one of the stories we told at our first Gay Drag Drunk history is the story of the Friends of Dorothy and the U.S. Navy's kind of like gay sailor problem in the 1980s. The Friends of Dorothy was a very secret way for mostly queer men to like find each other and be like, oh, are you a friend of Dorothy? Me too. And that's how they could say like, oh, okay, like we're both queer. And the Navy in the 80s was had just fired or released some queer soldiers who they then realized they were like, oh, well, he's not the only one. There's others. So let's go on a hunt. And so they spent all of this money on this investigation looking for all of these gay soldiers in the Great Lakes area. And they sent them to these gay bars, and they were all just looking for a woman named Dorothy because they thought that Dorothy was the ringleader of all of these gay men.
Yeah.
And very quickly, like, the queer men figured it out, and they were like, oh, okay. And so they started sending them to this, like, known homophobe old woman named Dorothy. And they're like, you know all the gays. And she's like, I hate the gays. But it truly is, it's like the reality is that, like, there's every color, creed, and human in our military, because that is what being American is. And going back to the 14th Amendment is like, you are American simply by being here. Being an American is like the ideology of opportunity and of equality. Like that is what the founding fathers, I think, really were leaning and looking for. And this idea of for me and not for you is just un-American.
We're literally all in, like, we're all in this together. And like that is crazy. I didn't know that. But Friend of Dorothy, if you don't know, is a reference to Judy Garland from The Wizard of Oz. Okay, second to last one. The word lesbian comes from the island of Lesbos.
True. I did a refugee advocacy trip when I was working with grassroots organizations on Lesbos, and first of all, just stunning island.
Yeah.
The dogs and the cats everywhere. The refugee camps there are just ungodly, horrible. We had our camera confiscated simply for driving by with our cameras out. And that was also just a real formative part of my advocacy journey, is realizing that, like, there's these places with this beautiful, rich history, and there's people who can come to them like me and just be like, oh, I'm here to help, or I'm here for vacation. And then the idea that you're there seeking safety for yourself and your children, and then put in tents and barbed wired fences was like, there is so much work to do for us to see each other as human. And it goes beyond just, and that's why for the Joy Resistance Network, we not rotate causes, but we try to touch each cause, because there's so many, and they're all important. They're all interconnected. They're all rooted in the same thing. And there's a lot of resistance to be done.
There's also so much knowledge to know, and it kind of feels like, you know, you pick it up where you can grab it, because I'm just like, oh my God, I would have never known that. Like, where can you go and learn this information? Like, you have to go and find it yourself, because it's not being taught in schools. So I feel like it's a learning curve we have to find, and like, it's like, what do you know? It's like an exchange of information. But like, I think queer resistance specifically, like, it just brings me so much joy, because like
unapologetic.
Yeah, you're unapologetic. You go out, you learn this. Like, it's like kind of like RuPaul says, like, you got to learn your history, you know?
So learn it.
I love that. Last question. The first same-sex couple to kiss on American TV did it in the 1970s.
That sounds right. 70s was definitely a liberation era.
False. It didn't happen until much later in the 80s.
Damn. Okay.
Which is so weird. Do you remember like your first like queer gay awakening in media?
I mean, I don't know. Is it like Lara Croft Tomb Raider, or like there's a number? I mean, almost anything. And Angelina Jolie, and you just had me like, oh, there's definitely something wrong with me. Like, I'm way too obsessed with this.
She is. Angelina Jolie is just like universally hot. Like,
oh my,
anybody can see her like as beautiful.
And I think she always took on these extremely powerful female roles as well. And there's something about that is just like, oh, she's bad, like in the best way. Like it seems like a woman who takes no shit.
I love when a woman just like harnesses like all of her power, and I'm just like, she knows she's a badass. Like, yeah, that's amazing. Okay, let's see. That was it. That was the last one. Okay, so I kind of want to kick off this last kind of section by, obviously our podcast is called Inherently Gay. Yeah. I just want to ask you, what is so inherent to you right now, or what is inherently true for you right now? And it can be anything.
Oh. I mean, God, there is so much, and I do feel watching the Joy Resistance Network kind of unfold in a way I was so hesitant to take the leap, and watching it turn into a community that feels so real and so true. Inherently, joy is resistance. It is not a substitute for it. It is not, it's not an excuse to not do resistance work. But joy is and can be and should be the fuel for resistance. And I feel like that is just deeply rooted in my soul.
I love that. And I definitely get that from you, like talking to you before, we obviously started filming. Like, it definitely takes a certain type of person and energy to be able to bring people together, to have the ideas, and you definitely radiate, community. And like I really value that. And like I was telling you before, like I have been wanting to meet other people that are creating, and I want to meet with people who are like talking and having these ideas. So I think right now for me, what's inherently true for me is creating community and just like being whimsy, like you said, like being silly, goofy, stupid, like
Silly goofy is my favorite phrase.
yeah, being a silly
Silly
goose. Like life is too short to like be so be so serious, you know. Well, I really appreciate you for coming on. I feel like I've learned so much. Like I want to like take a course. Like I want you to like offer a course in queer history, and I want to take it, and like if that's with drag queens or not, like I don't care. But for people who are interested in like showing up for events, for attending, getting connected with the Joy Resistance Network, where can they find you?
Well, I'm so excited, and a big shout out to my dear friend Arnell Lozada for building out a website that really does feel like a community hub, and something that really highlights what we're about. And so we do have our website now, and you can find us on Instagram. We have a bunch of different events coming up, and I'm really excited. We are doing a second series of Gay Drag Drunk History. Our first was Stories Untold. Our second series is going to be, you've probably heard this one before, and so we'll be covering stories where you've learned about them typically in your high school course, or like in your U.S. history. Again, being a teacher, like that is always the foundation of like what are we teaching our kids and what should they be learning. And so the secret queer movements within these larger ones that have been kind of swept aside is going to be our second series. And so it'll be things that you might already be like kind of familiar with, and then had no idea that you as a queer person actually did have a place in that movement. And so I'm really excited we're doing another iteration of that. We are often at Stargazer. Stargazer is our clubhouse for the Joy Resistance Social Club. And that is kind of our member community where, our members do receive 24/7 happy hour there because we spend so much time there building community, getting to know each other. As I've been building this, my algorithm is definitely aware and keeps really helping me stay in check in that way of throwing parties is not community. Community takes real like repetition and intention, and that really does mean for me just having a degree of consistency. And so I am so grateful to Stargazer, but you'll find me there all the time.
Awesome.
And we have some trash pickups happening as well. We're doing partnership with Sup ATX called Sup With All This Trash.
I saw, yeah.
And our winning team will receive prizes to a bunch of different partners. A combination of like smoothies and bar tabs and merch from local Austin businesses. We want to create that circular economy. We know who to boycott, but we don't necessarily know who to go to. And so we are just trying to create that and find that within each other in this really wonderful city that we live in.
That's awesome. Those are a lot of really great events coming up. So if you're listening and you're in the Austin area, definitely make sure to check out Joy Resistance Network on Instagram. Check out their new website that launched. As always, my name is Justin Dallas. You can find me on all the platforms on Inherently Gay everywhere. And make sure to tune in for the next episode. But thank you so much, Hayley, for coming on. Yeah,
this has been so wonderful.
I loved it. We need to have you back for like a part 2, like a deeper series. Like I feel like I have so much to learn, So
always learning, always students.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.